Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Thursday night. You may not have seen us in a while, or maybe you watched on Monday and you saw us kick off a new season of fantasy goodness. We are back. It's Thursday night. It's the Devy Hour, but slightly different. It's the Devy Hour Rookie Edition because we're in the midst of rookie season, so we're gonna talk rookies. We're gonna talk about the 2021 class, help you get ready, and then we'll kick back to talking Devy stuff as we get into this hot and heavy. But first and foremost, welcome, Paul. How you doing tonight, buddy?
It's almost Friday. I'm happy about that. The work week's been awful. Is what it is. I know we discussed before the show that you're having some issues, and hopefully they're okay.
Yeah, hopefully I'm not getting the COVIDs, and hopefully it's just the cold vids. But we'll see. You know, anything's possible. Right now, I'm only feeling just sore, but I'm getting old, so maybe that's just part of getting old. Who knows? Anything's possible, but we'll be careful either way. Glad that I work from home and I'm sequestered all the time anyway. And you can't catch it through the screen, if it is. With that being said, tonight we're talking about some rookies. We're going to talk about some guys maybe a little outside of the top guys because most of you know some of the high-end prospects. Some of you know the high-end guys, Lawrence and Fields and some of these favorite guys that people talk about. Maybe not Paul, but some people. And we're going to talk about some a little bit more under the radar guys. Maybe guys that are fringe first-round prospects or maybe guys that haven't been hyped up yet that we like. So we're going to have a little fun with it tonight. I know there is a lot of things going on in the draft process now as teams are getting up to speed. We've had the Senior Bowl, and obviously Combine's going to look a little different. It's not really going to be a Combine, so Pro Days are kind of a thing. As we're going through this process, we are here to help you. RookieDraftGuide.com is the place you'll want to go because that has all of our intel, all of our evaluations, both offensively and defensively. You know, your Monday night crew is evaluating the rookies. So we'll just we'll help you on the defense and the offense. So as we get going, make sure you keep it locked there because that's the hub. We're just going to get you excited and tease you a little bit and send you over there to enjoy the rest of it. So Paul, let's go through quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. Let's give them a little bit to work with. Give me a quarterback or two quarterbacks that you're interested in that maybe aren't the number 1 and 2 guys, or maybe just sell me on one of the other guys that's near the top that you really like.
If I picked first overall and I couldn't move the selection, there's a high likelihood I would select Zach Wilson first overall in Superflex. I'm not sold on Meyer and him bringing in a bunch of college guys with him. If you want Lawrence because of it, okay. I'm not going to sell you that you should sell him. I think he's a sell. But I honestly feel that Wilson's physical ceiling and mental ceiling with a horrible offense that he was at, you should be selecting him second overall in Superflex. I know we have a disagreement on a couple others, and we have for a year and a half or whatever. But I honestly think that Zach Wilson he's an option at first overall more than people are willing to admit. I know I might be on that one by myself, but that's okay. I think my only first overall selection's a Devy League, and Fabio's already owned, so.
Well, I bet you get Zach Wilson at that point because I don't. Is it the XFL league?
No.
Oh,
No, it's not.
I'm about to say.
No, that is one league I took over an inherited roster, and I've earned the number one selection 2 years in a row because the guy who before me had it. That would be the third year in a row that he picked first, so I should be on the way out of there. But yeah,
We'll see.
that team, yeah.
Well, and I think to back to Lawrence's, I'm not an Urban Meyer fan, so I definitely agree that it's a concern when you bring a college coach that's bounced around as much as he has and had success. You bring him to the next level. We've seen so many times in the past, even the good ones fail. Nick Saban, obviously, everybody knows how he did. The one saving grace is if Urban Meyer lets the offense go and he isn't trying to control it because he brought in Darrell Bevell. Now, obviously, everybody remembers Darrell Bevell here in Detroit getting COVID, not coaching in games. But what he did do well was he coached that offense well. Like he took Matthew Stafford and used what he could do well and maximize that value. So I still see potential if Urban Meyer isn't too, because I've heard plenty of times people say that Urban Meyer is very micromanager. So if he micromanages that offense and ruins it, then I mean, like what Matt Patricia did to Bevel, then it's going to suck. If he lets Bevel take what Lawrence does well, gets him doing play action stuff, maybe spreading the field a little bit more, kind of similar to the Matthew Stafford mold of playing the game, then I could see success. But I can't argue Wilson because I like Wilson's athletic ability. I think he moves around well. He seems to read defenses well, even at the school he was at, which isn't really prolific for quarterback. I think he really is a guy that you could, even if you're not comfortable with Lawrence, you can be comfortable with Wilson long term. Obviously, I'm still Lawrence 101 because I think him with Bevel could be good. That's a big bet, though. I mean, if you miss on that one at the 101 in a superflex, I mean, that could hurt you for a few years. So you have to be careful there.
Yeah.
On the other hand,
I know,
oh yeah, go ahead.
I know that I'm on the island, and it's population me on that one.
Well, and that's okay.
I'm aware.
If you hit, then you get to rub it in literally every other person's face in the world because I'm sure there's got to be someone else out there, but there's just not a lot of people out there that way.
Yeah.
But those out there, I mean, it's because of Urban Meyer. Like he's like literally the worst coach you could have brought up for me to get excited about anything. I just don't see success at the NFL level because I don't know what to expect from him, and that's a concern to me.
The other concern I do have is I'm not sure how committed that ownership is on football. I know that a lot of the younger ones are more committed to wrestling, and I think that Shad is more concerned with English football or soccer. I don't know who helps Lawrence, and I'm concerned that he ends up like Darnold, where you go, okay, you didn't have any help.
Yeah.
Sorry, next. I don't think that explicitly happens, but
Well,
it wouldn't surprise me.
I appreciate our Ohio brother and Bryce in the comments on Facebook. Urban was a great recruiter, but his play calling was blah. And that's where I hope he hands it off to Bevel and lets Bevel just run the offense. If he does that, I can see success because Bevel's a football guy. Is this a
I was gonna say, who said that?
Bryce?
He's more accurate shooting in COD than Justin Fields is throwing a football.
Kevin, I appreciate your comment on YouTube. Is this a Ted Lasso situation? Listen, Ted Lasso became the greatest coach in soccer. All right, so if it is the case, then we'll see. Yes, Trevor, Darrell Bevell was in Seattle with a young Russell Wilson. I think his last year coaching with them was his last Super Bowl when they decided to pass instead of run. If I remember, I'd have to verify, but I think that was the Marshawn Lynch is not running the ball at the goal line Super Bowl where New England picked him off because.
No, that was the Broncos showed up and were DOA.
Oh.
which yes, Bevel helped them, but it's going to be hard to sit there and go, okay, who helped win that? Because that was over before, 6 minutes in the first?
It was a rough one.
Game was over.
Yeah, it was a rough one. So Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson. That's your conversation there. You think Wilson's better than Lawrence? You're taking him 101. Is there another quarterback that you're interested in? If not, I will go to my interested quarterbacks.
I'm more interested in Lance the more I watch him, but there just isn't enough film on him, and I'm probably not selecting him before 7, 8, 9 range in Superflex. But you might have a home run, and you might have nothing. He's interesting from an athlete perspective, but you just don't know once they step up level-wise, smarts and physical. I'm interested, but it's almost like playing, at the casino.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
Well, and I think lately, in the last few days at least, I've heard folks saying, well, if Washington keeps swinging and missing, maybe they could trade up in the draft and take Lance and then get you kind of a similar style of quarterback to a Cam Newton, but more accurate is what I've seen a few guys say. I don't hate that. I think that would be good for him. I would really love for him to go somewhere where he can sit and develop. Unfortunately, I know in the NFL nowadays that isn't the sexy choice for people. But Lance could stand it, to be behind somebody like an Alex Smith for another year if Alex Smith comes back, or or whatever they do there.
Or the Falcons.
Or the Falcons. I mean, you could have him sitting behind Matt Ryan for a year. That'd be perfectly fine. All right, so we have a question, and we are always going to answer questions. So, Ball is Life on YouTube. Rookie 103 in Superflex or Antonio Gibson?
103.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, that 103 pick is probably the top running back, receiver, whatever you think is valuable there.
No, it's Chase.
Well, as long as Chase doesn't go 102.
Assuming he's not second overall, yeah.
As long as he's not 102, yeah. Yeah, I'd be okay with that. I'd probably go the 103 as well, Ball.
It's not horrible, but it's... If you threw in a second, okay. But I would rather have the 103.
Yeah. Yep. And it looks like our boy Jay Wall approves of the 103. All right, so on to my quarterbacks. I'm going to throw them out both at the same time because I want to make sure we get through a little bit of every position. My two quarterbacks are guys that I truly feel are developmental guys. If a team drafts them and throws them in now, it's not going to go well. And that's Kyle Trask from Florida and Jamie Newman from Georgia. Newman, I like the arm, I like the physical skills, I like the mobility, but I think he needs time to develop the reading the defense, his progressions, controlling the pocket, moving around in the pocket. I mean, there's a lot of things that just aren't developed. Skill set's there, just I think he needs some seasoning. Trask, obviously, we've seen him throw the ball all over the yard, but I still think he needs to develop as well. I know that he looked Heisman worthy this year, but I think it was a product of the system a little bit. I want to see him develop a little bit more. It seemed like he didn't have to go through his progressions nearly as often. So those are some areas of concern to me. But those are two guys that I would be willing to take a stash chance on. If they fall into the second round of your Superflex draft, I'd be willing to take a look at them because come second round, it could be a crapshoot.
Yeah.
What's your take on them?
I mean, you know how I feel about Trask. I mean, I'm just not a fan, but I'm less concerned about it, considering the last man who disagreed with Menendez. Here's your one per show. I do feel that 2 out of Jones, Trask, and Shoot, who's the other one?
Newman.
Yes, Newman are going to have that where they select him in the second or early third, and they're looked at as maybes in the future. And I think you get them at the back half of the second and in Superflex, whichever one that falls in the fourth or fifth, which I do think is Newman. It's a free fall.
Yeah.
I'm not as hyped up on the physicals for Newman as everyone else is. I'm also concerned that he's a product of the system a lot, which is odd saying that out of Wake, but I think he had a lot of receiver help, and I do think that some of the ACC defenses just
Soft.
they didn't show
Yeah.
up a lot.
Yeah.
I don't like the fact that he sat out a year, and it's not a I'm gonna hold it over him. He needs more tape, and he didn't show it.
Right.
In and of itself, it's a concern.
Yeah. He's definitely a
what it is.
project. I mean, a team that drafts him, he's probably earliest is probably kind of mid third, and that's probably somebody reaching at that point. He needs some time to develop. Oh, sorry, Bryce, I missed you over there. In a draft where you have the 107 and 108 and are desperate for quarterback, parentheses Bridgewater and Newton, who do you see falling there, or should I be targeting trades?
Is this
I'm
Superflex?
guessing Superflex.
You can probably get one of Lance. I don't like Fields. Maybe Fields ends up second overall. I'm not a Fields fan. I watched him in high school. He's not accurate. Freshman, didn't throw. Sophomore, not accurate. This year, not accurate.
Yeah,
I'm just not interested. If he ends up first or second overall, I'm going to let somebody else have him and not concern myself with it. There's a couple other assets that others like that I'm just going to go, I'm out. I'm not going to concern myself because I'm not going to have any shares. I'll concern myself with who I do draft. And I think that gets lost a little bit. You don't have to necessarily concern yourself with what others have. Concern yourself with what you have.
well, and with a guy like Fields, I mean, are you going to get a Lamar Jackson where you're getting a lot of fantasy production on the ground and the team builds around that? If so, I mean, it works. I don't know how long it's going to last because he takes a beating, but so if he falls and he goes to a team where they're willing to do that, well, there you go. If you needed help, you get it. Bryce does say to piggyback off, the rest of his team is good. Mixon, Taylor, Zeke, Ridley, Claypool, and it is super flex. Wanting to contend though, I would probably consider if you love one of those top quarterbacks, I would see if the guy who's up there is willing to take 2 picks to move up. What if I give you 1, 7, and 8 to go up to 102 or 101 or whatever? It doesn't hurt to ask. If the only thing you need is a quarterback, you need to go get your guy, or see if you can take one of those picks and go get a quarterback from another team. What if somebody's got
as much as everyone's dumping on Goff right
he's
now,
a perfect buy.
that's right. He just became cheaper, we think, and he just became more of the owner who has him looks at him and goes, maybe, versus, hey, this is a sure thing. I'm all over him in Superflex leagues.
Yeah.
All over him. He still has the age. He still has upside. Not as much upside, but floor upside. I mean, he'll be in the NFL.
Well, and with a guy like Goff, I mean, look at what Detroit has. The offensive line is probably the only strong point they have, and at least they've got that. He's got Hawkinson, they've got DeAndre Swift. They got to find receivers. Obviously, that everybody knows that, so they'll be targeting some. But if Anthony Lynn does with Goff what he did with Herbert, which was Keep it simple. Help him. Let him call some plays at the line so he does develop. I mean, Goff is an easy win. So I'm all over him, but most places I own him because I liked him coming out. I just don't like what McVay did. I mean, he hurt him just as much as Fisher did. Only difference is, at least with McVay, he looked fantasy relevant. But you're hearing it now. McVay didn't help him develop. He just said, "This is what you're going to do. Go do this." Like a good coach teaches him, helps him, lets him start to call plays at the line and do a lot of that shifting in motion and some of that. But it sounds like it didn't happen that way. So I don't know. This is our PSA. Go get Goff if you can get him because he should be cheap and at least you know Detroit wants to give him a chance to be the guy so that they don't have to spend the 107 on a quarterback too. At least that's what I'm hearing.
Exactly. 100%.
So there you go, Bryce. Good luck. Hopefully any of that helps you. And like always, Discord, Facebook, all the places that you know and talk to us, pose these questions. We're always here to help. Next up, running backs. So give me a couple running backs that you like that maybe aren't ETN and Harris, which I know you don't really care for either all that much.
ETN's fine. I'm just not going to invest the 104 into him. I do own him in a Devy league, and okay, I own him. I'm not going to sell him, but I'm not interested in spending, the 104, 105, 106, whatever. But you had in there Javonte Williams. I think when the process is finished, he might be a 103, 104, 105 discussion. And he will be someone I'm interested in a lot if he falls significantly, well, somewhat beyond there. And he's pretty locked in to at least not something this season, but for next or before. I mean, we've seen something. I'm trying to think of somewhere he could land where he'd be the option. Say Seattle. Like, let's say Seattle resigns Carson and they pick him in the second. Okay, he's pretty obviously the option for next year. If he lands in that situation or better, I'm highly interested in him. I just like the size and the footwork on him. And he's got at least functional hands. They're not awesome, but he's got hands.
Well, and the nice thing with him is he is a three down back if a team is looking for one because he can pass protect. And that's a critical thing a lot of these running backs can't do coming out of college is they struggle in pass protection. Williams can do that. Yes, he can catch the ball and do some of those things too, but he's good at broken tackles. I mean, he's good at making defenders miss. I mean, all the things that you want to see he can do, and that's why I think when all things are said and done, he's pushing into that conversation as one of the top backs in the class.
I agree. I would select him as my RB1, and I wouldn't really consider anyone else. And I know that frustrates all the Najee Harris owners. I won't have a share of them. I'm not concerned about the guys I do draft, not the ones I don't.
You may have to go into Discord and tag J-Wall and explain why you don't like Harris. His comment on YouTube,
Yeah.
You don't like Harris? And then he said crazy.
No, hate him. I think he's a 4th round pick. Maybe 5th.
And there you go, J-Wall. Make sure you talk to Paul in Discord and find out his thoughts on him. Who is your next running back, seeing as Williams was also my choice? I agree with you. I think he's talented.
Not somebody who's going to be selected, someone overly high, but Puka Williams. He's got the footwork and he's got the speed, but he's like 175, which is a concern. I don't want to have everyone that you select high. So maybe, you draft him in the 3rd round, the 4th round, the 5th round, and just sit on him. And if he plays, okay. But I'll pick someone on the lower end of the rookie scale. Just again, it's that first acceleration that he's got. Huge fan of it. Like his overall game there.
Yeah. The one thing I remember about Puka when I was watching him is I liked how patient he was. When you're that size, if you have good vision and can wait and let the play develop, I think that's immensely valuable going into the next level. I don't know at his size if he's really going to be able to handle much more than being a flex type option coming in to spell guys, things like that. But we'll see. I mean, he's got the talent. He definitely produced at Kansas in a big way.
Yeah, he's got some pretty awful off the field issues or issue. You can look it up online yourself. He might be free because of it.
Right. Yeah, he may slip all the way down for sure. Okay, so my other running back, because obviously we both had Javonte Williams, is Jarrett Patterson from Buffalo. I don't think he's a guy that's going to be overly highly drafted in the NFL draft, but he's a guy that can do it all. He was used in a lot of different ways at Buffalo. He's okay at pass protection. When I was watching him in pass protection, specific type plays where he was there, he wasn't great. There were some times where he took bad angles. There were some times where even linebackers were able to kind of throw him around. So that's a concern. But I don't know that. I mean, that stuff is you can develop that. At least he's got something to work with. I don't know at the NFL if he's ever going to be anything more than kind of the number two in a committee. But that's okay in fantasy. That guy can get involved. I like his ball security. I like his ability to break tackles. I mean, there's a lot of things about his game that I think are intriguing, at least worth taking a flyer on. But I think he's going to be one of those that, if he doesn't get drafted till fifth, sixth, seventh round, he's going to be free in your drafts. Most likely, he probably won't get drafted at all. Maybe he's a guy you can just stash for free and see. But I think he's got intrigue.
I'm concerned about the size and the speed. He can do it all. I'm concerned. I just have concerns about the speed and the size. Honestly, if I'm gonna have someone who's under 200, I want just speed, and I don't see it out of him.
Yeah, I'd guess if you were doing a 40, he's probably in the 4 or 5 range, would be my guess.
Yeah, I think he's a little slower than that, but I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, Team X is going to have an ACL injury and he's going to be out there like by week 6. We don't know. That's why they're handcuffs. We'll see which ones work out, when they work out, for how long they work out. I'm not interested in his. Is what it
Right.
is.
No, I mean it's when you're looking down the list of running backs, I mean after the top few, there's some pretty big concerns about most of them. I mean, think about Jamar Jefferson, Trey Sermon, Stevenson, Hubbard. I mean, as you go down the list, you can make the case that they could turn into something, but you could make the case just as much that they're nothing. I mean, it's this year will be really interesting to see what teams. I was saying in our chat earlier today, it'll be interesting to see how team scouts view the tape because they're not getting so much hands-on at the combine and some of these others. Like it'll be interesting to see how the scouts view, just the play because you're really going off just film. I mean, and this is the first time we've really done this ever. So
I think you're gonna have a couple I think they floated that you're gonna have like 3 regional combines, but we'll see. I mean, it's you hop on social media and you think this is what you see.
right,
Who knows?
yeah, for sure.
I have no idea.
No, it's anybody's guess at this point.
They announced this. They announced this. They changed this. I don't know. I wake up in the morning.
Yeah, right.
I go to work. I come home. I talk with you on fantasy football. I act like I know.
We don't know half as much as we think we know, unfortunately. But that's what this is all fun for. We talk it out. We have the conversations here with everybody that's watching. We answer your questions and we move forward. And hopefully we're right more than we're wrong. And hopefully we make you successful. The NFL pulls the wool or pulls the rug out from under us on the regular basis. Anything's possible.
Hey guys, we're playing on Wednesday night. Huh? The NFL. Or did you say the NBA? No, the NFL.
Fair enough. Yeah. What would you rather have? Okay, so Bryce asked another question. With everything that we've said so far, would you rather have Wentz or Goff? Goff, in my book.
Yeah. Although I do think that Wentz, if you can get him for an early second or afterwards, I'd rather hope on him.
Yeah, I mean, depending on who owns those guys, Bryce, go after both of them. See if you can get them both, and just
Yeah.
take a shot. I mean, either one of those two are better than Newton. That's for sure.
Yeah, I don't think Newton's. I don't want to say in the NFL next year, but he won't be
Yeah,
playing.
it's not significant playing time if he is.
Yeah, sadly, those are my options in XFL, and it's.
I think a change of scenery will be good for Wentz, and I think a change of scenery will be good for Goff. I just don't. I can't put my finger on how good, but I think there definitely is, room for improvement for both, obviously. But I think a change of scenery will help both of these guys out extremely.
Yes.
Okay. Wide receivers. Right? Yeah, we hit. No, we had three running backs. You know what? Let me throw out. Seeing as we only hit three running backs, let me throw another running back out because we know people love running backs. What do you think of the kid from Arkansas, Boyd? Yeah, Rakeem Boyd.
Rakeem Boyd. Not to. We have a little scale that we have for the rookie draft site. I'm interested in him. He's a solid cuff for me. I think he goes round 4 to 6, and he's somebody's second by week 6 to 8. I mean, we'll see how fast that rookies get assimilated in, but I think he only needs one ACL to head the wrong way, not two ACLs to head the before he's on the field.
Yeah. Well,
To put it like
well,
that.
he was another guy. So what stuck out to me when I watched him was a lot like Puka, patient running back. So I was intrigued by him. I didn't see enough that made me go, you know what, this guy's going to push for a higher draft slot. I think he's kind of a midday three type running back. But there's something there that I was intrigued by. So I figured I'd throw that name out there for the viewing audience that maybe hasn't gone to rookiedraftguide.com yet.
Yeah, the height, weight, speed is interesting,
Yeah.
but he kind of lacks. He kind of has some of it all, but he kind of lacks some of it all.
Seems like a solid downhill runner. I mean, that's, which isn't a terrible thing. I mean, at 6 foot, 215 pounds or whatever he is. I mean, he's got good size for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so our Monday Night Compadre says better rookie, Holland or Morig. Those are both safeties for the Anthony Leones of the world. I think I'm going to lean Morig here.
What?
I like his tenacity and that he's a violent tackler. But this could be a Tracy Walker scenario where he throws himself into injuries all the time. Javon Holland's probably more consistent, but I like Morig.
Javon Holland has a Hall of Fame upside. We'll see if it works in fantasy. But Javon Holland's got Hall of Fame upside. I'm not saying he hits it. I'm just saying the upside's there.
I'm gonna be looking for his rookie cards like I'm looking for Ashton Davis
for 50 cents on the discount aisle, like what I shop when I'm bored at work.
Right? That's why I got a Quentin Jammer in the mail, baby. All right. Bryce asks, thoughts on Trey Sermon? Let me pull up my notes on him.
Can I go back a couple months so I can get him for free in Devy leagues? Like I did in a few spots, but not all. I think he ultimately ends up as being somebody's guy. We'll see what that, the specifics on that, but I think he goes on the second day.
You know what a better question might be is his trade value any higher than it is right now?
Trey Sermons.
Yeah, Sermon. So obviously that's a Devy-focused conversation, but if you own Trey Sermon, or if you can get him, do you think it's better to try to sell high on him? Is he going to be any more valuable than he is right now, or
I think you do have the injury issues where I want to see him selected in the second or third round. But once that happens, you might be looking at. I mean, once that happens and you solidify that, if you're in to him a fourth or fifth that you moved him for in Devy leagues, take the profit if you want. I'm never gonna say, hey, you shouldn't take the profit, but I think you want to see it solidified first before someone actually moves something high. And I noticed that after Kelvin Harmon was like the 101 in some spots in April, and then he went the fifth round or sixth round, and then just a complete afterthought 5 minutes later. So I think that folks want to see it, aka Sermon. They want to see it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the injuries are the biggest concern, and I don't know. I just don't know what that means for his value long term. I mean, because the way he plays, he likes to get contact. I mean, he's not afraid to shy away from it. He wants to hit a guy, so that worries me a bit moving to the next level. That's why, if I have him, or even if people are high on him and at that pick in your draft, do you consider moving that pick because his value might not be any higher because the dude just keeps getting hurt. I don't know. I mean, that's kind of the thought I've had kicking around as I think about Sermon. Like, I love the player if he stayed healthy.
Yeah.
Good size, good speed, good everything. Was he 6 foot or 6'1", 215? I mean, good size. I love the kid, but
if you're selecting him between 7 to 12 overall, you're selecting him likely as a playoff franchise, or if you are someone that's on the other end of it, you can flip the selection for something that's more solidified long term, which I know that it's odd saying that about a rookie, but with the injury issues, aka a receiver. If you want to flip him for Pittman or Rager and something, or Ruggs and something, I mean, whatever you have that as, I'm fine with that. But I ultimately think he ends up on somebody's playoff roster, and I think it helps everyone involved.
yeah. Bryce adds a follow-up over on Facebook. Drafting him at the 202, is that too high? I don't think so.
Sermon?
Yeah.
I don't think he's out there that late,
Yeah.
unless it's super flex.
Yeah, I'm assuming this is his
maybe.
super flex league that he's talking about. And if it is super flex, he might fall that far.
Maybe.
Well, you got to think there's probably 3 to 4 receivers that get drafted in the first, or I mean, quarterbacks that get drafted in the first round. Potentially 1, 2, 3, 4 to 5 quarter or wide receivers, 2 to 3 tight ends.
Yeah.
I mean, there's quite a few guys.
Yeah, maybe he does make it in super flex that far.
Yeah, he won't in a standard kind of 1 QB situation. He's a first rounder most likely.
Correct.
Because, like I always say, running backs get overdrafted in standard scoring leagues, in 1 QB type leagues, all the time.
This is why I pick 8th every season. If I pick 1st or I pick 12th, I always find my way to that 6, 7, 8 range and pick a receiver, and everyone goes, well, you need this because your roster needs this. Yeah, well, Justin Jefferson worked out.
All right, so
Sorry.
Kevin's question leads us to the wide receivers. So he says, how many of these wide receivers could you see being the wide receiver 1 of this class? My answer is probably 5 to 7 of these receivers could be the wide receiver 1. But that
Could.
Well, I mean, think about it.
Um,
Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle, Terrace Marshall, Rashad Bateman. Depending on how you feel about Kadarius Toney or Amon-Ra St. Brown, I mean, maybe. I don't think so. Waddle and Kadarius Toney make me worry about kind of the Hollywood Brown effect. Are they just big play guys that don't get consistent action and they wind up kind of being or Henry Ruggs, for some of you that remember last year. But I'll leave them in there because I'm sure they'll get drafted early. I don't see them being wide receiver one. So I don't know. It's a tough call, Kevin. That's a good question.
I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say three. I think you have more consistency out of the Bama ones and more and stuff. Chase is in a league of his own. He just is. I can see the athlete in Bateman. If that happens, I can see him as the first receiver out of this group. I can also see the athlete out of Seth Williams, and he's got a lower floor than what you're looking for, but that's ceiling is absolutely sky high.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I even love Terrace Marshall as well. I think he's got great hands. I think he's a plus route runner. Obviously the size at 6'3" gives you that good size that you want. I mean, he has a lot of what you would like to see in your top receiver. So, I mean, there's quite a few that I think have value in this class.
Yeah, he's been interesting for me. I hated him out of high school as a super high recruit, and then I liked him after the freshman year, hated him after the sophomore year, and I somewhat like him now. I have a feeling I'm not going to have any shares of him, but I won't hate on someone who does. Just I seem like I flip flop after every season with him.
Yeah. Well, and I think some of what I didn't like about him changed into things I liked about him. So for a while there, I didn't see the route running ability. I didn't see hands. I mean, it didn't look. It looked like he was having trouble and kind of fighting the ball at times. And then the last 2 years, all that seemed to change. Whether it was coaching, development, whatever the case may be. I saw that getting better. So I think he figures to me as kind of a the next level of guys if you don't want to spend a high premium but still want to target a receiver. I think you can go after him and see a good return on your investment and probably not have to pay, a top 10 to 15 pick. I think he could easily fall around the 15 range and you
No.
could get good value there.
Yeah.
Bateman is a guy I definitely want to hear you talk on though because I'm kind of torn how I feel about him. And he's one I know you like a lot.
Height, weight, speed, route running, and just the athlete in him. I mean, it's not. I'm not going to sit here and give a huge spiel on him, but height, weight, speed, and I just feel that he has enough game that the size is going to actually play out for him. I know he's got a X receiver only type, but I prefer those. I'm not someone who likes a lot of slot receivers for fantasy if they're not my first, but
Is this draft class Justin Jefferson?
who's that?
So I'm asking you, is Bateman this year's version of Justin Jefferson, where he kind of goes a little bit lower down because the name isn't Chase Smith Waddle, but he blows up higher than some of these other guys? Because Chase is going to go to one of those top teams, and if it isn't Miami, then it's a team that really did truly earn the pick. So he might be struggling facing double coverage and dealing with a lot of growing pains. Smith, we talked about the undersize when it comes to the weight. Waddle could be just a big play guy. Could Bateman kind of rocket himself up into that Jefferson type role where he goes somewhere, maybe isn't relied on to be the top guy, but really has a great fantasy season as a rookie?
If we're talking rookie fantasy, Waddle or Smith, but I don't want to own rookies for the sake of first year output. If they hit it, excellent. I'm not counting on it though. I would rather have Seth Williams at between 10 to 15 overall versus just about anyone else besides someone we'll hit on later, but I'd rather have him because of the straight up ceiling he provides, and you're not investing top uh, capital into him.
Well, speaking of Seth Williams, I know he was on both of our lists of guys that maybe outside of the high end guys that we both like. You've liked him longer than me. As I started to dig into him more in the off season, I started to fall in love a little bit more with him. Sell me Seth Williams, although you don't really have to, but sell me on Seth Williams. Let me know what you think about him.
He's got hands issues, but he'll also will once every half a football, he'll make your jaw hit the floor. He just makes insane catches that he shouldn't, and if he ever has someone who throws him it accurately, look out. Just his height, weight, speed, and just athlete is insane.
Yeah, I,
It's
I love
it's
his
right behind
hands.
Chase for me.
Yeah, I love his hands. My biggest concern, and I wanted to ask you if you had noticed this, is it seemed like he had a little bit more trouble on guys pressing him at the line. Like he's a physical receiver going, like think of like him going slants or some of these types of plays. Like it seemed like he was physical going after the ball, good hands, but it seemed like guys that pressed him at the line, he had trouble beating that. And that's a concern for me.
There's a reason that you're not selecting him in the top 5. I'm just saying that the upside
There.
is here.
Okay.
And if you're a playoff roster and you still have your first, let's say you don't need the help right now, select him. If you're someone who picks 12th because you traded for it with someone who won the ship, means you don't need the help immediately. So he misses the first year. So what? Okay, so he wasn't wide receiver 36. He was wide receiver 56. So what? If he's not going to hit for you, draft first. And if he straight up misses in a couple years, trust the process. I mean, if you have 2 or 3 shots every season at elite athletes, you should hit one. If you miss on some other ones, so be it. But just the height, weight, speed, and the athlete for him, I will take my shot on him, and if he hits, awesome. If he misses, hopefully hopefully the other first hits.
Don't hate it. Like I said, as I've watched him more, I've started to like him more. I mean, there's concerns, but the stuff that I've seen that are concerns are things you can coach. Like you can fix him beating press cover. I mean, some of those things you can't fix the crazy, spectacular catches, the physicality. I mean, some of that stuff that just isn't coachable. So definitely a guy to target. But I want to make sure you understand, the good and the bad. I mean, that's why, like any of our YouTube videos you watched, I try to throw in some negatives, things to keep an eye on, because every player has some very real pluses and some very real negatives. Some have more pluses than negatives, and vice versa. So we're always going to shoot you straight.
As much as I'm a fan of like Zach Moss, I know that he was hated by like 75% of the analysts. Even me liking him, you selected Mims in front of him. What's the reason that you selected him? Height, weight, speed, and the upside. Seth Williams is the same way. Premium athlete, and you're not spending the premium price tag for him. If he works out, excellent. And if he misses, okay, well then you're selecting second or third overall. You can, that's a lot of help then for you in the future. He can almost help you if he misses. As weird as that sounds.
Yeah, for sure. So Aiden over on YouTube thinks this rookie class is a bit overrated. How do you feel about guys that didn't play last year? So obviously high name in the draft, Ja'Marr Chase didn't play at all in 2020. Did he show enough in 2019 to say, well, it doesn't matter what you do this year? Also, LSU was extremely down anyway, so it may have hurt his draft stock. How do you feel about guys that didn't play? And then some of the other comments, Waddle's a little too small, Smith's too small, Bateman likely could be too slow, things like that. So what do you make about some of those concerns a person may have about these guys?
Chase is first overall for me.
Even though he didn't play.
In the non-superflex, he's first overall.
So you're not worried about the year off?
Yeah, I'm not concerned. He showed a plus ceiling. We sat here 6 to 8 months ago and said he's higher up than Jefferson easily. You just saw the ceiling hit for Jefferson, and now we're sitting here arguing, oh, should Chase be first, second, third, fourth behind these other receivers? No. I picked second in one of my leagues. I took over an orphan franchise, and I am hoping he falls despite not needing receiver at all. So he's first overall fairly easily for me, non-super flex.
Yeah, I think they'll be interesting to see because there's quite a few high NFL draft picks that sat out this year. So I think it'll be an interesting, kind of proof of concept for players that maybe think their draft stock can't get any higher and decide to sit out a season. It'll be interesting to see how that goes for them. I want to bring up one more receiver before we do tight ends and close out the show. So I'm a fan of Marlon Williams, the wide receiver from UCF. I don't think he's really going to project as kind of a outside number one, number two receiver. I think he's more of like your big slot. So maybe not somebody you're going to have to target in the early second round. He's probably going to slide till late second, third round, if at all. Who knows if he gets drafted or not. But I liked not only the production, but I liked the size. 6 foot, 222. He's good. He's physical. For a guy that got used a lot as the slot at UCF. He did a good job boxing out corners and going after the ball and has good route running, can beat press coverage pretty well. He can be a vertical threat. He has enough speed to take the top off the defense. But I wanted to get your take on him. He's a guy that I've kind of kept as my, see how the draft process treats him.
To answer what we had before, are we concerned about the sit-outs? I'll throw this in because I don't think I'll have another shot at it. Penei Sewell's not the top overall lineman. It's the Virginia Tech kid. That's the one position I'm concerned about a sit-out. And hopefully half the audience didn't just go O-line and close the browser. But anyways, I wasn't as sold on Marlon. I don't think he has enough size for X, and I don't think he's got enough speed for slot or flanker. If he works out for someone else, so be it. I'm not going to find out if he works out or not for my team. He's neither feast nor famine for me. I just don't see it.
Well, there you go.
But if you select him in the fourth,
whatever. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, whatever.
Okay. All right. Closing out the show with Paul's favorite. Tight ends.
Tight ends.
That's a cod joke for those at home.
That's a cod joke for the 1.5 seconds after I get murdered. Anyway.
All right, so I'll let you go, although we'll probably just talk about Craig's guy.
there's only one real Devy option at the position, and it's Eric Gilbert, and he comes out in 23. If you are not selecting Pitts, Jordan, and or Fryermuth, you might be sitting a minute on the next one.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Jordan. I think if you can scoop him up for, like I said about Williams, let's say you own the 110 to 112 selection, and you're someone who acquired it in helping someone else out. Draft him and sit on him. Hope the athlete works out, and hope you have grade A meat once it's finished. It might be sirloin. I don't think it is, but I'm a huge fan of him. I don't think that it's as much of a gap between him and Pitts as everyone else thinks. I'm probably I know we had sat here before and said Jordan over him. I think the consensus is saying the opposite.
And that's fine.
I'll sit there at the end. I'll sit there at the end of the first, early second, and just select him and sit on him. Again, I have A+ upside. If it works out, excellent. If not, hopefully I selected Seth Williams and he does work out, so it doesn't matter for me.
Well, and the great thing is all three of those tight ends I think are going to make very nice fantasy tight ends. I want to go to the fourth guy in honor of Craig because I think everybody knows Pitts, Fryermuth, and Jordan are the dude. As Jason says in the chat, the dude. They're all good, and I think they're all going to be well worth the draft pick in the first, probably 20 picks would be my guess is the farthest any of them would fall. And that's Fryermuth, most likely, I would think.
For fantasy,
yeah,
you
for
mean?
Fantasy. The tight end I want to talk about is Craig's boy, Hunter Long. So a guy that wasn't on our radar until Craig bought him up, and I will continue to give Craig shout out for it. If you're looking for,
he hit on him
first. And the more I watched him, he got used a lot in college, and he showed up and did well. And I think he can be a fringe startable fantasy tight end in a few years. Maybe even year 2, year 3. I think he can split out. He can play in line. He can block well enough that I think you could keep him in on third down. He's just really kind of an all around good tight end. I don't think he's good enough to hop any of those three ahead of him because I think there's some athletic limitations that those other guys don't have that Hunter Long may have. But I think if you're looking for a value tight end play, he could be the guy that could fall and give you a nice investment. What do you think about Hunter Long?
It's insane how everyone thinks that you have to be selected in the third round, which is really funny how it happened. Like, Kittle was in the third round, Kelsey was in the third round. I think Long's going to end up in the third round. He's the only one of the non-big three that I want a shot on. If I feel forced because I own the 2-5, 2-6 selection and I hate what's up there, okay. I'm not going to make an effort for him. But if he works out, so be it. But I've said this before, I don't want any selection between about the 2-4 to 3-6 range, just because I don't think that you're going to get value versus what you have trading that selection. But if I feel forced with one of those, all over them.
So we got 2 questions to close out the show. We're going to touch on. Jason's got a tight end question. Does Jake Ferguson have a chance? My answer is not really. I'm not a huge fan. What do you think about Ferguson?
I like the athlete. I'm concerned about the injuries with him.
The position that he plays, that's going to be a tough one.
Am I selecting like 3-5 to 3-12, and I don't like my selection? Yeah, okay. Can I sit on him? Yeah, maybe. I don't think he's going to be helpful the first year, but I like the athlete. He's got issues, but if he's free, yeah, sure.
Definitely worth a stash is what I'm hearing. All right, so last question. Our boy Aiden over on YouTube says, "Is ETN a pass for Dynasty top 3 picks due to his lack of size?" So I'm going to say, obviously, this is not Superflex because Superflex, we know he's not a top 3 pick. But from a standard 1 QB situation, is he one of your top 3 picks, Paul?
No. Um, Chase, Bateman, Williams, other Williams. I'm actually hoping that there's a third one. Pitts. So I'm at 5. So that's a pretty easy no.
Yeah,
Everybody likes Najee Harris except for me. There's 6. I mean, it's a no. I think he ultimately gets selected between 106 to 112 range, and depending on what you need, if you held your first and you made the playoffs, sure, everybody needs running back in that spot.
well, and in standard leagues, running backs tend to get overdrafted. So I think Chase is definitely for sure in the top 3. Najee Harris will inevitably get drafted, probably at the 101 in most cases, I would guess, because people love. I know you don't, but I watch and I listen and I talk to people, and I'm not taking Najee at the 101, but I know that people love Najee, and I like Najee. I'm a fan. I think he will have fantasy value, but I don't think that ETN will get in the top 3. I think he's probably. I guess it just depends on how people view Waddle, Smith, some of these receivers, but I would guess he's probably 4 to 6 range because running backs get drafted higher. I don't know that I would draft him there. It's tough right now. My board is in disarray. I've tried a few different things and moved a few guys around, but I'm still going through because I spent so much time on the defensive side. I'm really going back through and watching kind of round 2 of film on some of these offensive guys that I'm kind of hung up on how I feel about them. So I would say no, Aiden. To get back to your question, he's probably not top 3, but he's probably not far outside of that. I think he will be a fine fantasy running back. I just don't think I don't think we're having the same conversation we had last year with those high-end running backs that came out. I think this class is not as strong, but I think it will have nice value in the long run. That being said, because I like Williams. I even like Michael Carter from UNC, but he's a little smaller. But if you can get him later, I think he's a nice back to own. So there you go.
If I hate my second round selection, Michael Carter is who I'm gonna sit there and go, yeah, fine, I select you. I like him as
Aiden,
well.
this is a fun one. So Aiden says, "Does ETN to the Falcons change your mind?" I think if ETN goes to the Falcons, he will wind up getting drafted top 5.
Yeah, probably. And I would be out at that point just because I would rather have Seth Williams, Pitts, Jordan, Bateman, and I'd be selecting them, 7, 8, 9, 12 range, somewhere in there. But I mean, it's a little early, and there's specifics that need answered on that. Hey, would you select him here? Am I an ascending franchise? Am I someone who annually makes the playoffs? Am I someone who selects first overall but owns 6th overall? Do I think I can move him in 6 months?
Right.
I mean, that's an every owner has
Yep.
their own
Yeah, and
perspective.
remember, like you just said, it's early in the process. We still have lots of lots of scouting conversations to be had, and it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, smoke screens will start coming up sooner rather than later as we get closer to the draft. Guys will get thrown out there that really aren't going to be drafted that early, so it'll be interesting to see how it transpires. I will say as we close this, keep it locked here. We're doing mock drafts, so make sure you're a part of the Facebook community, the Discord community, because we have channels about mock drafts and we're running those on the regular. We started those up this week, and that was fun to see where people valued guys. Uh, RookieDraftGuide.com, we're going to have where we think you should target a guy at if you want to make sure you draft him and all that fun stuff. So RotoHeat.com, RookieDraftGuide.com, those are going to be the places you want to keep an eye on here on YouTube. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification icon so you know when we're going live. The Monday and Thursday shows are back, so you can talk to us live and all that fun stuff. And and we'll keep this going. We'll keep having the conversations. We'll do some mock drafts here. Paul and I will go back and forth and do some mock drafts like we did in December, and have a little fun with it. So, Paul, I thank you as always. We will see you guys Monday. We love you all.